What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into tonight's game. Again, just more, in my opinion, choreographed plays, players getting wide open, and basically just back and forth with not much giving all game. Now, Pittsburgh was able to get it in the end. Now, I can't go to the preview because they take it down, so even if you go to Google and type in ESPN preview, it won't show you the preview before the game. Just another reason I think that gematria exists. They kind of like erase away the evidence. But if you watch my last video, I go through the entire article. And I'm not saying that this is foolproof. As you guys know with gematria, and I don't really use gematria. I use, because gematria is using the numbers and letters to essentially decode specific phrases and things of that nature. I don't do that. I just look for numbers being forced down my throat over and over and over. So I mentioned how obviously we had the Steelers, who were 22 and 2 going into this game, and it was like, are they going to move to 22-3 or 23-2? And I had deduced that it was going to move to 23-2. I had found out right after doing the video, because I had found in the article all these different numbers that were alluding, in my opinion, to the 2-3-2. And then right afterwards, I find out that Pickett had 232 yards coming into this game. So it was right there the whole time. But it's not even just that. It's just the repetitive numbers. And I'm going to go into that with my Thursday Night Football prediction I'm about to do, because I think it's a really good one. And I can say we have 2 weeks of this theory working. So if it works this week, it's a 100-to-1 parlay we're going to hit off a 5-teamer. Now, and you might know what I'm talking about. It has to do with Deion Sanders. Now, this game was very interesting. Watt obviously got his, I think it was his 81st sack, a big Kobe number. I'd gone into that because I don't know the exact record, but the Steelers would have moved to something like, I'm just throwing this out there because I don't know the exact record. Let's just say 12-6-1 or something of that nature, with a win with under Tomlin in the last, I think, 17 years or 19 years, something of that nature. They had shown it in the preview. If you watch my video, you'll see the number. I don't remember the exact number, but a loss, it would have been like 12-7 something. The win was like 12-6-1, or it might have been like something completely different, but it was definitely the 1-2-6 combination, and it was almost a palindrome. So I saw that and I found it was interesting, and then I saw, just in the same article, and again, you'll see this if you look into it, they had the number 621 in there. And again, I found that interesting because, and that might have been it. It might have been 126 and 61. It was something like that, like all time. But it was the Kobe number. And I'm like, oh, if they win, they get the Kobe number. Well, they got the Kobe number, and they even scored with 26. So not the exact Kobe number. And then the Browns get exactly 22, which is obviously a very interesting number in of itself. So yeah, Watt gets his narrative, gets the sack. The Steelers are now at 21 straight home wins, which is where Brock Lesnar was before he lost. So I'm wondering if they lose their next home game. He was 21-0, and then he lost, going to 21-1. I know it sounds like goofy logic, but I do think wrestling copies NFL and all these other sports. Now it says 20th straight time, but it was showing 21. It was showing that they were at, well, here it goes, to 21, dating back to 1991. So that's actually, what's interesting is that's when Undertaker's streak started, was 1991. So you could say, oh, it's pretty crazy, but then you realize Undertaker's streak was 91, and obviously it ended after 21 wins. Now, if Pittsburgh gets matched up against Brock Purdy, that would be very, very interesting, obviously. Any wrestling fan knows why. But yeah, interesting score, and TJ Watt had a great game. Again, I said in my video, I didn't think that they loved James Harrison too much. So having his record get broken, and Watt doing it in a heroic fashion, obviously, is going to besmirch him in a way. Now, for the people that still don't think the numbers, I always say I don't use gematria too much because I know it exists, but I know it goes both ways. But it is so frustrating seeing numbers like this, sequences like this, and people thinking it's normal. And it's even more frustrating. This time we got it tonight, but it's even more frustrating when it's like, we don't know what to do with it. So you just tell me the odds, if you really don't believe in symbolism and that stuff, of a man throwing for 222 yards, a touchdown and a pick, so that's perfectly even, and then 2 sacks for 22 yards. I would argue it's almost an impossibility without you trying to do it. It's just absolutely insane. So we're seeing a lot of twos, huh? 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 22. Is it all a coincidence? Obviously, 1 and 1 adds up to 2, 2. It's just everywhere. Now, I have a theory, and dude got mad the first time I didn't. Phoenix is the person who brought it up. He had mentioned a couple of weeks ago he noticed that all of Deion's teams won. And as I always do, other people in the Discord, we give our theories and expound upon it. So Hutch had brought up the prospect of it happening again, which it did. So anyone that parlayed Deion's teams this week did well. So you could say it's a coincidence, but I wonder the odds of Deion winning, and with him the Ravens, this is week 1, Falcons, 49ers, Cowboys, Commanders all winning, right? And then this week, I was on the lookout for it just in case, and sure enough, it happened again with the Ravens, the Falcons, the 49ers, the Commanders, and the Cowboys. Now, the reason I like this is I think Deion's going to lose and lose big this week. Fittingly, he's like a 21-point dog. And I'm going to go into something that I really, really like. So, let's say that the trend continues and Deion loses, so this time it would mean his teams all lose, correct? Well, this feels like a good game. It's the Giants not many people believe in, and 21% chance of the Giants losing. Interesting. Or 20.1, I should say, but still 21. It's being played on the 21st. But what I find even more interesting is a Giants win puts both teams at 2-1. I feel like it's a game where people are not going to be loving the Giants. I don't think people are going to see this, of course, 333 yards. Like, you always see these types of things. But I don't think it's a game, even with the points, where people are going to be taking the Giants. You know, I think people are looking at the Giants and just saying, okay, this team sucks. They barely beat the Cardinals. They couldn't even score on Dallas, and they're going to be envisioning another Dallas. And these are the games where they'll have Daniel Jones come out of nowhere and just play like Steve Young. So I have a very good feeling he's going to win. Now, something I noticed that made me really like this theory more is, okay, Giants win. That's a huge upset. Let's look at the next one. Colts-Ravens. There's another big upset, but it's one that I could see happening. I really could. You know, you want to make Richardson look good. He's a rookie. They're obviously going to try and pitch him as Lamar-esque. So it would make sense to me that they win. And again, if they win, both teams move to 2-1. Then we go down the list. We have Buffalo, who should win this game. So again, it actually makes sense. It's not like they're all underdogs or all favorites. Bills should win this game. Again, both teams move to 2-1. Falcons play the Lions. If the Lions win, again, going with Deion losing because he's going to get washed by Oregon. Both teams move to 2-1. And the only slight outlier would be Dallas, where they would move to 2-1 and the Cardinals would move to 1-2. Still an inverse. So I find the fact that all the teams would have his jersey number, if this theory continues, almost as long of odds of it happening, or just as ridiculous as the teams all winning and losing with him. But they have 2 weeks in a row, and I feel like it's a good week. Now, you could argue, well, the Giants play before him, so is that the same? I don't know. It's a very new theory. Like I said, Phoenix brought it up to my attention a few weeks ago when it happened the first time, and it happened in baseball, too. It happened across the board the first time. So it was interesting. And then other people were just bringing up, again, playoff prospects, picking teams to win the division on prime time. Obviously, you see the Giants are on prime time, so it's interesting. So, and obviously Deion's prime. That's another thing. Am I the only one who caught Coach Prime in all of his games, and his documentary is on Prime Video? I find that very weird. I feel like that's just another symbol letting us know he's been bought. But yeah, to me, the symbols are definitely there, and this is where it can get frustrating because it's like you see all these different numbers, and you're trying to do the best you can with it. But we did go with Pittsburgh tonight. Again, I think it was going to be, with Franco Harris recently dying, Brown, he won at home, not him, but they won the Hall of Fame game at home. They won week 1 at home. It made more sense to me Pittsburgh wins, and they even made it about coaching, about how Tomlin's this great coach. So, and even on the other end, they were saying the Browns are a lot like Colorado. Had me a little nervous for a minute, because anytime someone gets compared to Colorado, they typically win. But yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a precursor, a little comparison. You know, they lose. But I do think, yeah, Colorado will go into. I'm not sure they're going to cover the spread. I thought about maybe they have them win going into USC because it's more of a draw. You know, Hunter's out, so people might not take them. I think Hunter being, quote, injured is just a way. Everyone's now, like, saying CSU is the dirtiest players. They should all be. And suspended, all these different things. I think it was all set up. That guy would have been kicked off the field so quick for taking out a top 5-star recruit. He would have been quickly dealt with. There's no way they would have allowed that to happen. And Deion's supposed to be this coach that is out there protecting his players. He would have been on the field trying to fight somebody, if it's the Deion we're supposed to believe it is. And that really happened. So to me, that whole thing was fake. Someone brought it's fugazi, phony nonsense. Someone brought to my attention that in the game they basically copied Friday Night Lights. I guess that same thing happened, where they purposely injured a player and then they basically willed their team to victory. I didn't see it. I compared Deion to the replacements because he's brought in like 70 misfits that all just happen to play perfectly together. And I compared him to Remember the Titans because his coaching style and the fact that it's borderline racism that is the underlying style of this team. Not them being racist, but it's about race. It's quickly becoming about race. Even the coach that went after him for the glasses and the hat, a black coach, Stephen A. was saying all but, yeah, he's like a white black guy. He's racist. Coming after his style, coming after his mom. It was pretty funny to watch them run with that narrative. But I think they're all in it together, as you know. But it does seem like they're stealing a lot of their stories and just how they're being portrayed from movies. And if they're going to do it from wrestling, then I'm not shocked they're doing it in movies. But yeah, you can let me know what you think of the Deion thing. I thought it was interesting. Like I said, a bunch of people have different theories about it. I hadn't seen anyone talk about the jersey number, and I thought that was interesting. Obviously, he wore 2 when he played baseball. He wore 21, and maybe that's why we're seeing all these 2s. But the 21 is very interesting when every one of these teams can move to 2 and 1, one of them being 1 and 2, which of course is an inverse. So that's where you probably have an idea of where I'm going to be going into this week. Now, should the Niners win, or should Deion somehow win, something of that effect, obviously it throws everything off. So just for now, obviously, we can't go into the Sunday games until I see what happens with Deion. But this is one that's going to happen first. And like I said, it is interesting. It's a 20.1%. I think these are completely made up, these ESPN analytics. I think they just throw them out there to, again, get their numbers out there. But it's another interesting one, and I do believe that it's great. It's a great play to take the Giants to win this game. It's at 10.5 now, so, I mean, when it moves, it's just going to affect the money line, obviously. But for me, it's just a great play. So that is an official play. If anything changes, I'll go into it. But to me, and it's on Prime Video, so maybe it is definitely connected to Deion. But yeah, I think this is one of those games where we see Daniel Jones actually look pretty competent. And he's done it last year. He did it last year where suddenly he's running the ball really well, making perfect throws. So to me, it's a perfect game to catch the public sleeping. And I do think that the Giants are going to win this game because of that. And again, as I've went into before, the reason I use this system, it's partially so I can play games like this. I thought about playing it as a leg 2. It's about 4-1, so as a leg 2, it would really pay well. But I'm going to save a couple others. Actually, you know what? We are going to play it as a leg 2, just because the odds are too good to pass up. So I'm playing this one as a leg 2 for the Jets loss. That was a plus odds one as well. And then if it doesn't hit, then we're going to save a nice, safe spread cover for a leg 3. So it's just going to be the Giants to beat the 49ers. I'm guessing, I don't have an exact number, but I'm guessing it's around, here we go, plus 425. It depends on what your book's juice is. I'll just do 420 for now. Again, it might move between 380 and 450. It all depends on your juice. And this is going to be a leg 2. And I'll go into why I do like leg 2s and leg 3s playing plus odds. Even with simple ones, for example, the Steelers beat Browns. Almost paid 2 units. Obviously, the goal is to profit 1 unit. Because we missed leg 1, we missed leg 2, that's 1 unit, 2 units, so we do 4 units. And a unit for me is 25, so it paid 45, almost 2 units. Now, if we had won that on leg 1, it wouldn't have paid quite that much. We would have barely profited over a unit. That same amount on leg 2, $50, pays about 1.5, and then $100 leg 3, we're getting closer to 2 units. So that's another reason I like this system, is on leg 2 and leg 3s, we can actually gain more than the 1 unit. And now, again, we only need to win 7 sequences for a 3-leg loss, like this loss here. It was a loss of 7 units, as you can see. But we don't need to win 7 sequences if we're getting ones like Florida beats Tennessee at 2 units. We got Missouri wins, that's 1.6. So that's 3.6 just between those two. That's already half of this lost sequence. So I know a lot of people are becoming more acquainted with the system and how it works. As you can see, we have a couple leg ones open. The Raiders didn't win, or cover, I'm sorry. The Bengals didn't cover. And the Falcons was a leg too. That's a rough one because I had them winning. And I'm like, okay, we're just going to do the spread because, you know, the odds of it being exactly a 1 point. And it was. And I've noticed that they're having a lot of 1 and 2 point games. That's always been a thing. But this year they're doing it a lot more. It's like they're purposely setting lines at 2.5 to really want to get you on that 2.5. And then it's a 2 point game. And we just saw what happened with the Rams-Niners. They raced to cover the spread. They cared more about covering that spread, or pushing the spread, I should say, than winning the game. So, very, very suspicious. The NFL even joked about that. But again, that's why I made this system. We're not going to hit at a 70% clip. Again, we missed the Lions, missed the Patriots, but just this little split, 1 out of 3, is a 2-unit net profit. So, that's the reason I stand by the system so much. And, yeah, for me, it's worth playing the Giants to beat the Niners as a leg 2. This would be a huge payer as a leg 2. I wouldn't risk it as a leg 3. It'd be almost insane to do something like that. Sometimes I would think about it, but because it's not like 3 of the 5 teams have played and lost already. You know, this is the beginning of the week. It's the first one, and it's the biggest upset. So I'm sticking with the theory. That's why I'm playing this as a leg 2, because I do believe in the Deion theory. We don't even know if Deion's going to lose. I think he is. I think he's going to lose and probably not cover. But since we don't know yet, I can't put too much credence into this game. But if Deion loses, obviously, then I'm going to like the Giants to win a lot more. So I'll be going into Deion. But yeah, if you didn't know about that, every team has won so far. Again, that means if someone had parlayed the last 2 weeks, they would have done fine. If the trend continues, and I'm going to be playing it myself, this is a 100-to-1 parlay about. Because you got like a plus 400, you got, I think, a plus 300 in here with the Colts. Maybe it'll be like 275. Then we're going to have, the Bills are going to be like minus 185 to like 225 or something. Probably closer to minus 225. Lions aren't going to be too bad. They'll be like minus 185. And then we're going to have where's the last one at? The Cowboys. And they're a big favorite. Or I'm sorry, we're having them lose. So, again, I know it's pretty crazy. So, this is going to be the toughest one. It's going to be the last one. Which also kind of works. It's 4, actually. So, yeah, it's 4, and it's the only 4 o'clock game. Meaning, if you do play this parlay, by the time that Cowboys game rolls around, if the other 4 do hit, then we have hedge opportunity. So I think it's a good play. Again, we have to reassure that Deion loses first, or otherwise all these teams might win. But I do like the again, it's about 100-to-1 odds to play it, and we have 2 big underdogs, 2 decent favorites, and then like a 50-50. So it's a parlay that could hit. Obviously, parlays are always tough, but only because it's Deion, I'm going to play the primetime parlay. And again, when I noticed all the teams would be 21 and then one would be 1 and 2, I found that very interesting. No one's moving to 3 and 0 or 0 and 3 with this game. Almost all of them are going to be 2 and 1 if our theory is right. So you can let me know what you think, and let me know what you think about Deion. I'll probably have that video out next. He's playing a Saturday game at 3. Seems like the perfect time where not many people are going to be glued to the TV to have them get wrecked and blame it on the quote injury from Hunter. Again, just my opinion. We'll have to see what happens. But I'm very curious to see what happens with the teams this week. And I think we're starting to get a really good read on the teams. Commanders are one that beginning of the season I went into had to make in the playoffs. I don't think a lot of people did. But to me, it's just Dan Schneider left. Things like that nature. Dolphins. Broncos, they were my one preseason pick that in the AFC that I've booted out. I had them in there instead of the Ravens, and I booted them out for the Ravens just because I can see already they're going to run the same script. I wouldn't be surprised if Russell got benched. And then on the NFC side, I'm still liking the Niners. I think they're doing a good job of keeping them. And again, a loss here would do a great job keeping them where they're not looking quite as good as Dallas and not even as dangerous as Philadelphia. So we'll have to see what happens. Anyone watch that Rams game, they're probably thinking, they could have beat the Rams bigger than that, so maybe they're not as good as Dallas, maybe they're not as good as Philly. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that last year was the year that the Niners were the red herring, and this year they have a good year. And the Giants beating them would be a great way of getting some money off of the Niners' early season, considering the Cowboys just pummeled them. So, yeah, I like the pick. I like this upset. I don't like to call them upsets when it's like 3-4 points. I see people all the time, like I could call tonight an upset and be like, oh man, we nailed that upset. And it's like, no, it's not an upset in my opinion if it's within a field goal. But when you're talking these kind of odds, then it's definitely an upset. So I don't pick them too often. We've done pretty good. This week we had the Jags, but they lost, and the Jets. But the week prior we had the Jets winning clean over the Bills. I'd call that an upset just because of what people expected out of the Bills. I think it was about a 3-point game. We had the Lions beating the Chiefs. That was definitely an upset. In college, we just got Florida. So we're doing all right with upsets. And with the system, we definitely have the ability to play those upsets, and I'm going to. So you could call it a little bit risky playing the Niners as a leg 2 to lose, the Giants to win that game. I just like it. And again, it'll pay really good odds. And if it doesn't hit, then for a leg 3, there's a few games in here that I do like quite a bit. I like a few of these games quite a bit. Without giving too much away, I'm loving the Rams-Bengals. That one's a very interesting one, and there's narratives for both, obviously. It's like you could wonder, well, the Cincy starting off 0-3 is interesting. Then you realize Rams beat him in the Super Bowl, so maybe we get some redemption. And there's a few others that I found. Falcons-Lions, I like this one a lot too. Not just because of Deion, I'm liking the Lions. I don't think they're going to have too many losses this year unless they're playing a team that's really, really good. Now, obviously, they just lost to Seattle, but that's why I mean by too many losses. I don't think they're going to lose back-to-back to average teams. So you can let me know what you think, if you think the Giants have a chance. I think if you look at it from even the public money perspective, I think people are going to be safe, and a lot of people like to get a parlay leg over with. So they might do a parlay and just put the Giants on the money line. And it might be a parlay killer when the Giants win. And I think people betting the Giants aren't going to be slamming the spread. They're going to be maybe hitting the money line for the odds. I think more people are going to just trust that the Giants are going to hold it down, maybe buy this down to 10. And another reason I wanted to do this video tonight, I could see this moving to 9.5, something of that nature, which when we're picking money lines is a big difference. If we're doing spreads, you can always buy the half a point or you can do what you need. But when it's a money line, if it moves to 9, 9.5, or however it moves, sure, it could move the other way. I don't think it will. But if it moves, shorter, then we're going to go from 400 to 360, and it's just not going to be as good odds. So depending on your book, it should be ranging between those numbers. And like I said, my book doesn't give the best juice, but I think it was around 420. I kind of glanced at it before I went ahead and did this, so I'll be checking it out in a minute. Obviously, I haven't locked it yet because I just got done watching the Steelers, but it is one I'm officially playing as a leg 2. And yeah, the others are definitely doable. Colts, Ravens, that one's doable. And then the only one that's really tough would be the Cowboys here against the Cardinals. That one seems like kind of ridiculous. But the good thing is, again, running the primetime parlay, we will be able to hedge that. If the others came through and that didn't, I think people would be convinced, okay, the Cardinals are probably going to win, because that would be 14 out of 14 Deion teams doing exactly what he did, and then Cowboys would be the 15th. It would be they'd be going against a lot of precedents that have been set, in my opinion. 3 weeks in a row, all the teams win, and then Cowboys are the last one. But even if you weren't too sure on it, you could always hedge it. And even if you took the Cowboys money line, with how this parlay would pay out by the time we reached Cowboys-Cardinals, even taking the Cowboys on the money line, you could hedge healthily. Because like I said, it's about 100 to 1 payout if it does hit. So, just my opinion, no reason not to play it for a unit. And I'll do that separately, of course. I'm going to do my regular system, but then separately I'm going to fade all of Deion's teams, basically. So, well, not basically, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm fading all 5 of the teams. Sure, you could fade his team as well. Just the odds are so stupid. It's like, I don't see the point. And we're not betting spreads. We're just betting money line. So, for this parlay, it's just going to be the 5 teams that Deion's going against. And again, I think it's because he's going to lose to Oregon. Now, I'll go into that video. I'm going to look into previews, see if Deion's talking about the coach taking things personal. I know they said in the preseason, Oregon basically said they haven't won shit, so I don't know why they're celebrating. But again, it's a daytime game right after that crazy game. I think they're going to slow it down. They might cover because they might understand, okay, we'll pay people on the cover. A lot of people are still going to pick the money line. We'll screw with the over-under, screw with a couple props, make a lot of money, and still they can still cover. But 20-something points, I don't think many people are going to be giving that up with Oregon. Even if they think they're a better team than Colorado, I think people are just conditioned at this point to say, okay, Deion's not getting blown out. So we'll see what happens there. I just wanted to cover tonight's game. A lot of twos. And again, a lot of 2-3-2s. If you watched my last video, that's the reason I picked this game, was because I noticed all the 2-3-2s and then the Kobe numbers. And then afterwards, I looked into I was like, let's see what happens if Deion's teams lose. And I'm like, yeah, they all moved to 2-1. That's pretty interesting. So the fact that they actually match his jersey number makes it, in my opinion, even more appealing. So I'm definitely going to be playing this. And I try and balance narratives with the numbers and the symbolism. With Pittsburgh, I try and do it with every game. Some games you see more of it, and anything that's a primetime game or that, in my opinion, Deion related, we're going to see a lot of it. But that's just my early idea of what I think is going to happen this week. Of course, again, we're not going to know anything until Thursday, and then even after that, we got the Saturday game to see what happens with Deion. But if the Giants win early, we might be on to something. It really might tell us, okay, because now we're looking at Cowboys is really the only big upset. It is the biggest upset of the week, but still, it's the only real upset. And I think the Giants win would definitely foreshadow a Deion Sanders loss. So I will go into that game. Like I said, it's an interesting one, and it's an interesting narrative. But I wanted to cover the Giants-Niners. I don't like to just do a video. If I can knock out a game while I'm doing it, to me, that's just better, because then we got the recap in there, and we got our next game. So I would lock this in before tomorrow in case it moves to 10, 9.5. If you want to be safe and play the spread, that's fine too, obviously. I'm just thinking, I'm not picking these games because of the spreads. I think the spread's about right, 10.5. If anything, it might be a little high. I would think maybe 8.5 made more sense. But even still, I'm only picking these games because of the Deion factor. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good week. I have a really good feeling about this. Just like Pittsburgh, sometimes you see something and it's more intuitive, and that's kind of the feeling I'm getting with the Giants and with Deion too. As much as I would love to take him at 8-1, I don't think there's a chance in hell they win this game. I know they need to look good for USC, but there's no way they're going to pay the public on that, and they can look good for USC without, losing. They could without winning. I mean, they could lose in overtime. They could have a lot of things happen. They could lose by 13 or something, and they say, oh, well, it was, they didn't have Hunter. There's a million things that could happen. So I'm still not sure if they're going to cover or not. I have a feeling Vegas won't mind paying out the cover, but I also feel like it could be a trap. So you guys can let me know what you think. If I missed anything about the game, numbers. I know announcers will always say something at a certain time. I didn't see when TJ Watt got his record-breaking sack, so maybe they said something interesting then. So if you saw anything that you thought was odd or just peculiar, just let me know, because it always helps us. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.